It's going down. Or you give me this, the hand. ओम त्यागेश्वरम रामकृष्ण शारदा मातृ रूपिणीम विवेकानंदमाचार्यम नत्वा वक्ष्यामि शुद्धे योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचाम मूलं शरीरस्य च भैषजेन योपाकरोत्तम प्रवरम मुनीनां पतंजलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि. In our last class, we discussed a couple of sutras. We saw what is the knowledge, the achievements of a yogi who has attained aviplava viveka khyati. Tasya saptadha pranta bhumi prajna. Yogi who has attained that viveka khyati, the highest knowledge, to the extent that it is aviplava, undiminished, untarnished. It is able to so to what sort it is, that knowledge, that prajna. So he said it is pranta bhumihi. It had, so to say, covered all the distance that is possible to be covered. That is, the knowledge of the yogi in that state is complete. It has reached its acme, its culmination. And very interestingly, it says it is saptadha, on 7 counts or in 7 directions, in 7 aspects. It has become pranta bhumi. It has reached its limit. And Patanjali has not given what are those 7 counts, what are those 7 dimensions in which yogi's knowledge has reached its acme. So it is for the commentators to give us what are those 7 counts or 7 aspects in which yogi's knowledge has attained culmination. And we Hanam, what is Hanopaya? In all these aspects, yogi's knowledge achievement has achieved its culmination. Yogi has known what is Heya, thoroughly known. Heyam dukkham anagatam. Yogi has thoroughly known. There is nothing more to be known for the yogi, and no more yogi can be deluded, enticed, so to say, to undertake such actions which will lead to misery. So that knowledge is complete. So also the hetu, causes of that misery, namely avidya, in that aspect also yogi has achieved the culmination. Then Hanopaya, with the help of Hanopaya, that is Samadhi, the means of destruction of misery, he has achieved the fullest to the fullest. And as a result, the yogi has achieved Hanam, that is Kaivalyam, we saw. Destruction of ignorance, destruction of misery, effort, so to say, ends. There is no more self effort possible or required on the part of the yogi once yogi has achieved pranta bhumi in all these aspects. So it is called karya nivritti. The other 3 were called chitta nivritti. Yogi realizes fully that chitta, the mind or whatever, antahkarana, it has served its purpose. Charitadhikaram chittam. it had the purpose of bhoga and apavarga, it has served it, it has no more purpose. Then yogi realizes that the constituents of chitta, the gunas, they are so to say tumbling down or tumbling back to their original forms. This is called some kind of disintegration of chitta, if we can put it. Chitta is resolving back to its own original cause. The gunas which were in the form of chitta are resolving back to their own original form. And I am Kevala, I am free. Those were the three. So these seven were the counts in which the yogi's knowledge had attained its zenith, so to say. Having talked of all this, Vyasa introduces that this is all fine, this is siddhi, this is what is to be achieved, but without sadhana, without the means, this cannot be achieved. So the Patanjali is introducing the means here, and by way of introduction, Patanjali says, Yoganganushthanat ashuddhikshaye jnana deepti aviveka khyate. That was the sutra, we were discussing that. So Yoganga Anusthana, by the Anusthana of the Yogangas. Yogangas means literally limbs of yoga or the stages of yoga or parts of yoga, different aspects of yoga you can say. By their Anusthana, what happens? That leads to Ashuddhikshaya, that is weakening, attenuation of impurities of the mind. So Yoganga Anusthana leads to weakening, attenuation of the impurities of the mind, Ashuddhikshaya. And when that happens, there is Jnana Deepti, that is light of knowledge or flame of knowledge or fire of knowledge, whatever you call it, that arises. And this goes on becoming brighter and brighter, if we can say so, because he uses the word aviveka khyate. I is an upasarga which is used to denote limit. So this Jnana Dipti keeps on increasing till it reaches Viveka Khyati. So obviously there is gradation, there is growth, more and more becoming clearer is mentioned here. So Aviveka Khyate. So this is the, so to say, the process, the steps through which this Yoganga Anusthana will lead us to Viveka Khyati. Now we saw what is Anusthana. Anusthana is not just practice, it is not abhyasa. It is reverentially committing ourselves, surrendering ourselves to a way of life, so to say. Because yoga, as it is rightly called, it's a way of life. It is not just picking up some practices and doing morning, evening, and then we are yogis. No, that's not what is Anusthana means. Anusthana means it has to change our life. It has to change the way we think, the way we act, the way we interact. Everything has to change. And that's what is the meaning of the word Anusthana. Committing ourselves to that particular idea or set of principles, surrendering to it reverentially for all life to come. It is not for 15 days and 20 days. It is irrevocably committing ourselves to those set of practices reverentially. And when we see those set of practices, we will know that yes, it really demands our whole being to be put into it. So that is Anusthana. Anusthana is different from practice or abhyasa. We can't translate this word into English. We are not translating it. We are just saying Anusthana. Adhering to these practices, committing ourselves to these practices. So that is Yoganga Anushthanat. What happens is there is Ashuddhikshaya, there is attenuation of Ashuddhi or impurities. Now, what are impurities of the mind? This subject keeps on coming. Purity of the mind we want to reduce or attenuate the impurities of the mind. What exactly are the impurities of the mind? And Bhashyakara has told that kleshas, so to say, are the impurities of the mind, we can say. Kleshas, see, there are certain kleshas which are very manifest to us. We are very much aware, they drives. Raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. This attachment or hatred or this clinging to life, these are very manifest to us. behind them is asmita, and there is of the strength becomes less and less. The drives, their strength becomes less and less. That is what is meant by ashuddhikshaya. They become less and less virulent, you can say, less and less powerful, less and less compelling on us. Their hold on us, it loses its grip, so to say. That is what is meant by ashuddhikshaya. And when that happens, simultaneously, it leads to mentioned, it is not something that we know from books or hear from lectures. Jnanadipti is a direct and immediate experience of ours, so subjective experience relating to ourselves, pertaining to ourselves. So that knowledge we might have read in books certain things, but the knowledge, jnana dipti that we get is entirely different from what we read in books. So Jnanadipti is something that comes as the mind keeps becoming purer and purer. And that knowledge, that experience, we do not get by reading books or listening to lectures. So that is what happens simultaneously. And Vyasa Maharshi beautifully puts it. As you keep following the Yogangas, of Sampragnat Samadhi, called Viveka Khyati, whatever you call it. Till that attainment, till then, this process continues. So it's a gradation. One good point about it is not like we have to wait for any result to come till the whole process is complete. It is not like cooking food. You know, unless the food is completely cooked, at all stages it is uncooked only. From whichever stage it is all uncooked. Till it is cooked, we can't use it, we can't eat it. But it is not like that. These are gradations, as Gita says, Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. So as we practice, we will see the results till we reach the state of Viveka Khyati. So that is one good point about it. But another commentator, another expounder or whatever you call it, he gives a warning, kind of saying that no doubt these are indicators, so to say. We can use them as indicators whether our kleshas are becoming weaker and weaker, and whether we are getting this jnana dipti or not. On that depends how well we are uh, doing the anusthana of yogangas, how well we are performing the anusthana of yogangas. The result we can check for ourselves. And that's kind of an indicator whether we are doing it right or we need to put more effort, all that. So that is good part of it. But he gives a warning. He says that look, you don't give examinations to students or to children who are in play school. Children in play school or primary school, they are not given examinations. They are just left there to learn whatever they can. Only when they go to higher classes, they are examined. So also, when we are in the play school of this yoga, or so unless we have achieved certain length of time, we will have to follow what is mentioned in the scriptures with all sincerity. That sincerity is most important. And as we follow it, a time will come when we'll really feel that yes, things are changing. Things are changing. And this Ashuddhikshaya is more palpable than the Jnana Deepti perhaps. Because Ashuddhikshaya, when that happens, you see, uh, the way we react to the situations, the way we interact with people, the way we react to people, that keeps changing. That is something that is very palpable. And then this Jnanadipti will come at the stage. So this is the gradation, so to say. This sutra also, as we have seen, it points out the purpose of Yoganga Anushtana. Of course, we had seen it in the first sutra itself, Yoga's Chittavritti Nirodha. That is the whole purpose of yoga. Yoga is cessation of the modifications of the mind and all the practices leading to it. So that is again, so to say, reiterated here that yoga is not meant for any other purposes. The only purpose of yoga is Chittavritti Nirodha. That is what yoga is, and all other practices leading to it. So that we are kind of reminded in this sutra where it tells us how this progresses, the whole thing progresses. आसन प्राणायाम प्रत्याहार धारणा ध्यान समाधयः अष्टाः योगांगानि. So these are the 8 limbs of yoga. We have heard these many times, I'm sure. They start with yama. Yama are, so to say, prohibitions, don'ts. We hear do's and don'ts. So these are don'ts. What we should avoid, those are yamas. They are listed there. Each of these will be taken up later. Niyamas are, so to say, what we have to follow, the do's, what we should do. Those set of disciplines are covered in niyamas. So yama and niyama, do's and don'ts, or don'ts and do's, those are there. And asana is a steady seat wherein we can sit comfortably for a long time, controlling the senses and the mind. Dharana, keeping things together, basically, so to say. Dhyana is meditation, and samadhi is, so to say, the trance, you can say, the deep meditation, or whatever you call. Samadhi has its own stages. So these are the 8 limbs, you can say, 8 aspects of yoga, 8 stages of yoga, or 8 parts of yoga, you can say. The first 2, yama and niyama, these are very important. And these are do's and don'ts, which we have to follow throughout our life, and they have the potential to change our way of living. These inculcate something like ahimsa, truthfulness, and all that. So these are moral disciplines, you can say, moral and spiritual disciplines, which we can practice, which we can commit to throughout the day. We cannot do pranayama throughout the day, we cannot do dhyana throughout the day, but yama niyama is something which we can commit to throughout the day. They are, so to say, life-changing practices. And they come right as the first and second disciplines. That's also very important. These are moral and spiritual disciplines, what we call sometimes as values. Those are there. And question is obviously raised, what have these values to do with this yoga? What have these values to do with yoga? This question comes, why should we adhere to these? We want to achieve a rejection. Speak the truth and don't hurt others and all. What have that to do with this? This is not a new question. This is asked in the scriptures also. And there is also a reference to Shadanga Yoga in some of the scriptures. We are talking of Ashtanga Yoga, but there is reference to Shadanga Yoga in some scriptures. So there, those 6 limbs start with asana itself. Yama and niyama are kind of excluded. So there is this scriptural reference, and we don't see any connect between these two, between yama niyama and samadhi. What is the connect? We understand asana has some connect with samadhi, but what have yama niyama to do with samadhi? So why should uh, not there be only Sharanga Yoga? And the answer given is the scriptures where they talk of Sharanga Yoga, the understanding or the instruction is the adhikari has to undertake that, and a person who is endowed with yama and niyama, such a person alone is adhikari to undertake Sharanga Yoga. Adhikari means an eligible person who will benefit from such practice. So if you want to become adhikari for Sharanga Yoga, you have to be established in yamas and niyamas. So scripturally that is ruled out, it is already explained. When it comes to logic, what have these yama niyamas to do with samadhi? There the answer is that these yama and niyamas, they are so to say, they are meant to target that exists within us. The selfishness, the self centeredness that exists within us, they are meant to target that. This is the purpose of samadhi. We want moksha, kaivalya. And unless this selfishness, worldliness is weakened, is got rid of, samadhi is a far off cry. And hence, these yama niyamas are necessary. No doubt they directly don't contribute to samadhi, but they make us competent for it by attacking or tackling the worldliness, the self centeredness that we have within us. Yama and niyamas are absolutely necessary. We cannot climb further steps of yoga. And of course, it is not that we should devote our life first to develop yama and niyamas before even attempting asana, pranayama, and all that. It's not that. But there should be a sincere attempt to inculcate these two great disciplines in our life, accompanied with practice of other aspects of yoga to the extent we can. But the results we will get as and when we become proficient in the practice of yama and niyama. We will see in next class. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.